Let's talk about Snowflake. You mean like Christmas? What? No, Snowflake the company. You know, Snowflake's getting a lot of buzz lately with the IPO and all. There's only one problem though, and it's that nobody seems to know what the heck Snowflake does. And I don't know about you, but I don't like investing in a company unless I know at a minimum what their product is. Well, I've got some great news. As luck would have it, I've got a good handle on exactly what Snowflake is. And that's because at my day job, I just spent the last 6 months helping to convert all of our systems and tools from Teradata over to Snowflake. And I think I can explain it in a way that everybody could understand. So by the end of this video, you're gonna understand exactly what Snowflake is, what it does, and what makes it unique in the marketplace. Specifically, we're gonna cover 2 powerful ways that Snowflake has an advantage over most of the competition. And then, as an added bonus, since I've got the company computer right here, I'm gonna let you actually look at the Snowflake product. Now that's gonna be awesome, so you're gonna wanna stick around for that. All of this happens right now. Hey, I'm Jay. Hope you're doing awesome. And welcome to Gems.
Subscribe.
You know, Warren Buffett is arguably one of the most successful investors of all time. And his company, Berkshire Hathaway, is said to have invested at least $250 million into Snowflake. And other big companies, such as Salesforce, are also placing bets on Snowflake. So it must be good, right? The problem is, try asking somebody what the company does. Their answer might sound like this. Yeah, they do data. It's tech. You know, Buffett's investing. I was even watching Meet Kevin struggle with this, who, by the way, does have a lot of really great financial analysis on this company. But he got to the part where he tried to explain what Snowflake is and what it does, and he essentially said that it's a glorified Excel sheet that helps companies do analysis. Sorry, Kevin, you're awesome, but that ain't right. Well, you're close. We'll give you credit. But the question still remains, what the heck is Snowflake? We need to start with something called SQL. SQL stands for Structured Query Language.
SQL is a domain-specific language used in programming and designed for managing data held in a relational database management system.
Oh, in English, it's a language that humans use in order to communicate with a database. At its core, Snowflake offers a service that allows companies to store vast amounts of data in a database or multiple databases, and then employees can query that data using SQL. Query is just a fancy way to say, access some of the data. Companies nowadays are storing more and more data, but data is only useful if it can be accessed in small, digestible chunks. For example, suppose a company had 3 divisions and wanted to know which division was the leader in sales. Using SQL, someone could query the data and have it rolled up for each of the 3 divisions. And then it would be very easy to see which division is leading in sales. But so far, none of this is new, and none of this is what makes Snowflake special. So what's the big advantage here? Of course, on the Snowflake website, they claim all sorts of advantages. But in my opinion, there are 2 main things that really stand out about Snowflake. So the first thing is that they're a cloud-based service. And this is different than the traditional service that many companies are using, which is called on-prem, which is a colloquial way to say on-premise. And what that means is that the physical hardware, we're talking about the database server itself, lives on site. So the company has to physically have this computer hardware on site. But not with Snowflake. Now company data can live in the cloud. There are a number of advantages for companies when they host their data in the cloud. One such advantage is reducing the chances that data is lost due to theft or fire, because even if a company loses their entire building, their data is still safe in the cloud. But another advantage is making it easier for employees to access the data, especially with work from home being a thing. You see, when a company hosts their data on site, usually access to that data is limited to folks who are inside the private network. You know, the local area network. But when it's hosted on the cloud, employees with the right credentials can access data that they need from anywhere, out in the field, at home, etc. Your data is essentially available wherever you are, and with whatever device you're using to access your data. Moving on past being cloud-based, there's a second reason that Snowflake is special. And this one's a big one. In fact, it's so important, even the name Snowflake and the way their logo looks is referencing this concept. And that is that the compute layer is made up of virtual warehouses, also known as clustering.
Huh? What'd that idiot just say to me?
Alright, I get it. This one's a little bit tricky, but don't worry, I can make this simple for you. Let's jump into the computer. Okay, I just put together a little Excel chart to illustrate this. Now suppose this chart represents a company's demand for data throughout the day. You can see over here on the left axis, we have the number of employees that are trying to query data. Essentially the number of employees that are trying to pull data from the database. And down across the bottom, this is just the hours throughout a day. So you can see here, a few employees show up early to work and they're trying to pull data. It's a pretty big company. And then as time goes on throughout the day, the demand kind of goes up a little bit, and then there's a lunch break, here, and the demand goes down quite a bit. And then toward the end of the day, companies are trying to catch up with their work, and the demand really kicks up. And then right about here, you have the maximum demand for the day. You guys see that? And then most of the employees go home. A few employees stay at work late, and then it gets into the night, and there's pretty much no demand over here. All right, so with the old way where you have to have your hardware on site, remember on-premise, you need to make sure that the resources are available for these employees. And what I mean is the physical hardware needs to be strong enough to support the demand of the employees. So you would look at your demand and you would figure out, well, the hardware needs to be powerful enough to account for this much demand, right about here. What's that say? About 1,800 employees using the system all at once. It needs to be able to handle that. Well, that's great, but there's a couple of problems. The first one is, what about here? And what about all of this? Now you've got this massively overpowered system that's essentially sitting there idle, especially over here. So you paid for all this horsepower, but it's really only benefiting you right about there. And then another problem is, what happens if the demand kicks up to here? Now all of a sudden you don't have enough horsepower and employees are waiting to get data back because the system is just choking with all the demand. And companies do tend to grow, so it can become very difficult and costly to try to have the right amount of server power on site at all times. And upgrades are very expensive. And downsizing your company is no good either, because then you have all this excess horsepower that you're not using. Let's just clear all this off of here. Okay, now here's what's special about Snowflake. They can actually change the amount of horsepower that they're delivering to you on the fly. So right here, the hardware resources dedicated to you are that much, and then that much, and then that much. Like that. They always deliver just the right amount of horsepower to meet the demand of your company. This creates incredible cost-saving opportunities for a company. Not only are you only paying for the resources that you need when you use them, but you also always have the right amount of resources so employees aren't sitting around waiting for data. This right here alone is the true magic of Snowflake. It's really what puts Snowflake light years beyond most of the competition. Okay, so hopefully that made a lot of sense. The efficiency that Snowflake brings to the table by being able to adjust the resources on the fly not only saves money for a company because you only pay for what you use, but it also allows companies to be more productive. So in that regard, Snowflake is an incredible partner for companies. All right, you guys ready to jump into Snowflake and take a look at it? A real live demo of the actual product? Let's do this. All right, so some of this data is going to be blanked out because I do work for a Fortune 50 company that is publicly traded. So if I accidentally shared any sensitive data with you, that would not be good. But I just wanted you to get a look at what's going on here so you can see what it looks like from a company's perspective. So companies that partner with Snowflake, here's the dashboard that they get access to. Right here in this area here, this window, all this code here, this is that SQL that I was talking about earlier. Obviously, learning how to program SQL is way outside the scope of this video, so don't worry about it if you don't understand what that is. But anyway, you click run, and it kicks out the data down here. Then you can choose to export the data to a CSV, comma-separated list, or put it in Excel, etc., whatever. You can see I ran 13,735 rows of data. I actually needed to run this query because I'm working on something here, and I just thought this would be a good time to stop in and show you guys. Over on the left pane, you get access to all the databases that are available to you as a user. And then up here, you have all your settings. So there's one thing in particular that I wanted to show that stands out as being unique about Snowflake. So when you click in here, there's this thing called warehouse. And there's all these different warehouse sizes. So check this out. Right now I'm using the extra large size, but I can resize. So there's extra small, small, medium, large, extra large, 2x, 3x, and 4x large. And you can see you're charged credits per hour when you use these different size warehouses. Now the idea here is if you're going to run a small query that's not going to kick back very much data and it's not very resource intensive, you would use a smaller warehouse. But if you need a little more resources behind your query, you need more horsepower, more CPU, more RAM, just more dedicated resources, then you're going to use a larger warehouse. Now kind of the trade-off is from a company perspective, the larger warehouse that you select, the more credits you're charged per hour. But the faster your query will run. So for example, if I ran this query with 13,735 rows in extra small, it probably wouldn't even come back at all. It would just run out of resources. If I ran it on medium, it would probably come back, but it would take 20 minutes. But when I run it on extra large, it comes back in about 2 minutes. So it's actually cheaper for me from a company perspective to use an extra large warehouse and pay the 16 credits per hour. I really don't want to go too deep because training you on Snowflake really isn't the idea here. I just kind of wanted you to get a sneak peek at the product because I think ultimately it helps you understand exactly what it is. Alright, if you guys feel like you know what Snowflake is, then my job here is done. Now you can go out there and spend all your money on an overpriced stock with confidence. Or maybe just sound super smart around your friends. Either way, I really appreciate you guys watching. And if you liked this video and got value out of it, please consider hitting the like button. You have no idea how much of a difference it makes. And also, it would be so awesome if you would subscribe to the channel. It would totally make my day. As always, thank you for watching, and remember, you guys are awesome.